For most of my life, I thought work was just, work. You get up when the alarm clock tells you to, you sit in traffic, you spend 8 hours in a building you wouldn't normally visit voluntarily, and you sit in meetings that could have been emails, and you answer emails that probably shouldn't have existed in the first place. Then you drive home, eat dinner, watch some TV, and try to recover enough energy to do it all again tomorrow. That was just the deal. Nobody said it was supposed to be enjoyable. Nobody said it was supposed to make sense. It was just the way things were. And for decades, most of us accepted it because we didn't think there was any alternative. If you wanted an income, you got a job. If you didn't want a job, you started a business. And starting a business usually meant renting a building, hiring some employees, taking on debt, buying equipment, and giving yourself a stress-induced ulcer before your 40th birthday. Those seemed like the only two options. Then something happened. The pandemic accidentally exposed a secret. Millions of people discovered that a huge percentage of modern work didn't actually require a commute. Turns out the internet wasn't just for watching cat videos and arguing with strangers. You could actually use it to work. Who knew? Entire companies that spent years insisting remote work was impossible somehow figured it out over a single weekend. On Friday, they were saying there is no way this can be done remotely. But by Monday morning, everybody was on Zoom. Funny how that works. For years, we were told productivity would collapse if people weren't physically sitting in an office where managers could keep an eye on them. Then people started working from home, and a strange thing happened. Projects got completed. Customers got served. Revenue kept coming in. And the world didn't end. In many cases, productivity actually increased. People got back hours of their lives because they weren't spending them trapped in traffic anymore. They could have lunch with their spouse, walk their dog, maybe see a little bit of daylight. Little luxuries that somehow became revolutionary. And once people experienced that freedom, something changed. Simply put, things got better. You can't unknow what you've learned. You can't discover a better way and then pretend you never saw it. That's where we are right now. Corporations are desperately trying to put the genie back in the bottle. They're trying to convince people that returning to the office is somehow about, collaboration, culture, innovation, team spirit. These buzzwords sound familiar to you? And look, there are certainly jobs where being physically present matters, and I've discussed those in some of my previous videos. But a lot of knowledge work doesn't. Everyone knows it. The employees know it, the managers know it, and the executives most definitely know it. The evidence is sitting right in front of us. Yet, many organizations continue trying to drag people back into a system designed for a different era. And that's because the real issue isn't productivity, it's control. For over 100 years, work has largely been built around physical presence. Factories needed workers in one place. Assembly lines needed supervision. Sadly, the industrial age shaped how we think about employment in general. Show up, stay there for a specific number of hours, leave when you're told. The problem is, we're no longer living in the industrial age. We're living in the information age where thoughts and connections can happen with the click of a button. A software developer can write code from a cabin. A designer can create from a coffee shop. A consultant can work from another country if they want. A writer can publish globally from their kitchen table. Technology has broken the connection between location and value creation. The old model depended on that connection. The new model doesn't. That's why we're seeing so much tension right now. The old system is desperately trying to preserve itself. The new system is trying to emerge. And history is full of moments like this. When automobiles appeared, horse-related industries didn't celebrate. When digital photography arrived, film companies didn't get up and cheer. When streaming showed up, video rental stores weren't exactly thrilled about the prospect. The existing system always fights change because change threatens the people who benefit from the current arrangement. That's normal. But eventually, reality wins. It always does. And reality is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. People have realized something important. Life is finite. I know that's not exactly breaking news, but for decades, many of us behaved as though time was unlimited. Commute an hour each way. Spend 40 years doing that, accept the exhaustion, accept the stress, accept the trade-off. Then one day you wake up and realize you spent thousands of hours sitting in traffic so you can answer emails from a cubicle instead of answering them from your house. That's not a pleasant realization, especially when you start doing the math. The pandemic forced people to evaluate their lives in a way they hadn't before. Many started asking questions they'd been avoiding. Why am I living like this? Why am I spending most of my waking hours doing something I don't enjoy? Why am I arranging my entire life around a paycheck? Why am I treating freedom like a retirement benefit instead of something I should be doing right now? Those questions don't disappear once they've been asked. And that's why so many people are looking for alternatives. I've said it 100 times. It's not because they're lazy, not because they don't want to work. Most people are perfectly willing to work. What they don't want is unnecessary bureaucracy, unnecessary commuting, unnecessary meetings, unnecessary restrictions. They want autonomy. Now, I know I sound like a broken record, and if you're watching this, you probably remember what a record is. They want flexibility. They want ownership. And perhaps more importantly, they want their time back. That's the real currency, not money. Time. Money can be replaced, but time can't. Once you start seeing through that lens, the traditional employment model begins to look very different. You stop asking, how much does this job pay? And you start asking, how much of my life is this job consuming? That's a much more interesting question, I think. And it's leading more people towards independent income streams, online businesses, digital products, yada, yada, yada. You've heard me say it repeatedly. There are dozens of opportunities that barely existed a generation ago. None of these paths are easy, although the entire internet is screaming at you otherwise. Let's be honest about that. Freedom requires responsibility. Autonomy requires initiative, and nobody is handing out escape plans. But for the first time in history, ordinary people have access to tools that once belonged exclusively to large organizations. A laptop, an internet connection, and a useful skill can now reach a global audience. That's not small change. That's a fundamental shift in how value gets created. The old work paradigm isn't collapsing because people suddenly became rebellious. It's collapsing because technology changed the rules. People simply noticed. It took a freaking pandemic, but they finally noticed. And once enough people notice, the system starts to change whether institutions like it or not. I don't think we're witnessing the end of work. Far from it. People are always going to work. People like building things, creating things, solving problems, helping others. No, I think what we're witnessing is a gradual decline of a particular version of work. The version built around attendance instead of outcomes, presence instead of productivity, and control instead of trust. And while that transition won't happen overnight, it has already begun. The smartest thing any of us can do right now is recognize where the world is heading. Build skills that create independence. Develop income streams that don't depend entirely on one employer. Use technology as leverage instead of merely as a tool, and gradually create options. Because options create freedom. Freedom creates happiness, and happiness creates a life where you no longer have to organize your existence around somebody else's schedule. The old system isn't disappearing tomorrow, but it isn't the only game in town anymore. And once you see that, it's very difficult to go back to believing it ever was. As always, this has been Over 40 with Dov. If you've enjoyed today's video, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. So until next time, keep asking yourself, if not now, when?